It is often recommended on YouTube that you should start your video with a 10-second hook, something in the beginning of the video to get people's attention. Often told, or advised rather, is a joke, something funny. A perfect example of something to hook your viewers to the video by their laughter is something like this. That's it, that's the tone of how we're starting the podcast right there. Welcome to the very first LiveHardCast. I am your stalwart and ever-depressed host, LiveHardman. Life is always hard, but it's worth living, so work hard, live hard, die hard. And to start us here, what is this? My cat's meowing outside and it's a bit distracting. I don't want to let her in because she's going to want to go out in about 3 seconds. What is this podcast? Well, I don't know, it's probably gonna be aiming towards like comedy, making you laugh, shooting the shiz. My favorite podcasts are Super Megacast, Sleepycast. Those are the big two. I also listen to a bit of the official podcast by Critical, though I would like to make it a little less 4 white cis guys, or 3 white cis guys, and whatever Kaya is. So something like that is what I'm shooting for, but however, today it's just myself. I think the big catch of this podcast is gonna be, it's the one podcast you'll listen to where you, the listener, could be the guest on the next episode, because look at the view count. You see that one? Yeah, you could be on here, just message me, just talk, we'll get together. Yeah, I don't want to do a whole lot of these by myself, but I probably may end up doing so. I'd like to get some friends on here. My friends have been talking about doing a podcast for like 4 years. Maybe this way, by doing one myself, I can convince them to get on, have a little bit of fun. But what else? Comedy. I'm a very left-leaning person. I like to get in some politics. You know, I liked the Daily Show with Jon Stewart, so I didn't like the thing with John Oliver last week tonight. I didn't like spending a year walking downstairs with my mom having the TV on and hearing Donald Trump. Actually, that was more like 4 years. That was a lot of fun. Maybe I did like it actually because I got to make fun of it. Speaking of politics, first thing I want to get into, I really hate Jordan Peterson. If you watch my Let's Plays, I've mentioned that like 50 trillion billion times, and I want to mention it again here because he just recently proved himself to continue being a humongous piece of shit. And by dead naming Elliot Page and saying, getting banned off Twitter for that, and not banned, not even, it's like soft banned. He could just delete the tweet and be right back. And he just says, no, I would rather die than stop being an anti-human piece of shit. And getting into the politics of things as my aforementioned left-leaning, yeah, I am a pro-human rights kind of person, you know, and that seeing a 60-year-old man who claims to be a proponent of young men living their lives better, make your bed, do everything you can to support a Judeo-Christian value. What the fuck kind of Judean-Christian value? Sorry, I probably shouldn't swear so much. I don't want to offend you Judeo-Christian idiots out there, but what the hell kind of Judean Christian value is punch down, you who have made hundreds of thousands of dollars, possibly millions, grifting to a generation of young boys. Yeah, punch down towards trans people who are just trying to live their lives, though I suppose in the case of Elliot Page, that's also a millionaire. It's not exactly punching down, but I think in the case of trans people, when you attack the rights of one and say that they should not be a thing, even if they're a millionaire, you're probably projecting that onto countless other people. And I myself, hey, hi, though if you've noticed, my name is LiveHardman, and I identify currently as non-binary. That's something I allow myself to do after a couple decades of being forced into male. So it's sort of like a chic deal, you know. I put on the reps. I become LiveHardman. Yeah, you can sort of guess that I'm on the side of not being against. It's such a funny thing because the internet online people I see, the enlightened conservatives, say anyone who supports gender identity is a pedophile, and you get put in a blue blanket. They say you're a boy. That's a gender identity, you fucking idiots. But let's not make this whole thing this whole thing political. I don't want to get into the Donald Trump era of just repeating the same thing over and over and over and over. But the first thing I'd like to repeat is, yeah, fuck you, Jordan Peterson. I have and Fluffy's meowing, it's distracting me. a special hate towards him because he's from my city of Toronto. He taught at the University of Toronto, where one of my friends, who will hopefully be on the podcast one day, went to. And kind of hits home for me when Canada's a relatively population-wise small nation, about 35-ish million people. And whenever something that should be universally hated comes out of us, sort of just a black mark on all of our collective consciousness. It's a whole lot of fun. Justin Bieber was that for a little while, but eventually he became based, and now something is not going too well with him. I probably shouldn't get into his health issues, which brings me a bit to my next point, which is Fluffy, stop meowing, which is also related grief and death. Recently, one of my cats passed away. That was on June 30th. As of recording, this is July 6th. And even after all the deaths I've experienced in my life, I still have a hard time dealing with it. It wasn't sudden this time, at least. It was some digestive disease I don't care to even remember the pronunciation of. I'd rather forget. Took Big Gray Cat from us, and that was a really sad night. It happened between June 30th to July 1st, and on that same day, speaking of grief of others, a popular YouTuber by the name of Technoblade, who I'm not gonna Angry Joe to Jew Wario, or more modern relevance would be all the other YouTubers who are trying to capitalize off of Technoblade's death. I've literally never heard of him before his death, and that might be an evil thing to say, but that's what I'm saying. Otherwise, I've never heard of him. And I watched that video by his father grieving about his death, and honestly, I don't know if this is a selfish thing to say, but it helps me deal with my grief to know that there's another family out there dealing with a much worse death than I. And it's not exactly a case of misery loves company. It's more a case of we are all human dealing with this bullshit together. Life is hard, man. But if Technoblade can be positive throughout this horribly crushing thing, cancer, which is not to compare sufferings, but I would compare that is a worse thing to deal with than the death of a cat that I've had for 10 years and did love very much. He isn't, cat's life, as much as I hate to say it, is not as impactful as a human's life, especially a big influencer such as Technoblade. And though that isn't the big important part, the more important part is that he was a kid. He was 23. He had the father and the rest of the family that made that video, and saying in it that he was doing all this stuff like making new merch, and this video, the Technoblade's video, So Long Nerds, which I can't remember, I do hope is monetized and makes his family a lot more money with its millions of views, that you just gotta keep going. You just have to deal with the bullshit as it comes, and I wouldn't say that dealing with death and grief ever gets easier, but you just kind of don't give it as much attention. And when you do, a comparison I like to make is, this is a gaming podcast also, I don't know if I mentioned that, in Batman Arkham Asylum, Batman Arkham City, you can find the death place of Bruce Wayne's parents, and when you press A on it, he gets sad and falls to his knees and is sad for as long as you don't move the controller. It's a very good showing of, I wouldn't say it's inappropriate, but I don't think it's the best way to deal with grief, to fall to your knees every time you remember the deaths you've suffered through. And the good juxtaposition counter to that is in 2018's Marvel's Spider-Man for the PlayStation and soon coming to PC, pre-order now, when you find a picture of Uncle Ben, who, if you don't know Spider-Man lore, also shotted dead. When you come to a picture of him and you interact with it, Peter Parker just says, "Hey, Uncle Ben, miss you." And that's the sort of best way to deal with grief that I can draw from in my life. So looking at things, I can't say I miss Technoblade himself. I wish he were still here, and I'll talk about that more in a moment. I do miss Big Gray Cat. And why I say in a moment is because also topic of this podcast going forward in the never-ending shooting the shit is, hey, my channel is called LiveHardman. It was originally going to be called Sufferman, but that was already taken because life is hard and full of bullshit. And every day is just not exactly a distraction, but dealing with all that bullshit, all the slings and arrows of misfortune, and still going on no matter how hard it gets. And I hope this podcast, as its hopefully never-ending iterations continue, that'll be helping you get through your bullshit. Sorry, just stuttering over my words as I do, thinking of what I'm going to say next. Because those aforementioned podcasts, Sleepycast and Super Megacast, which I highly recommend to you, much better than this, certainly so far, they've helped me get through my bullshit. Both of which actually I discovered in 2017 when I was very clinically depressed, dealing with a dead-end grocery store job, not knowing at all where to go with my life. And now, if you're a follower of the channel, if not, I'll bring you up to speed. I'm currently in another dead-end grocery store job. However, it's not a complete dead end because my next topic of sort of big announcement for this channel is, hey, I'm going back to school in September. I'm 28 years old now, which is ancient as shit. I have laugh lines. I hate that fact. Also, hey, Elliot Page mentioned before, I noticed you have laugh lines. Also, you sport them much better than I do. Wish I had your face, brother. Yeah, I'm going back to school in September for game programming. I've tried to get into programming before, but there's so many other things to do in my room that I can have so much more fun with that I just sort of didn't get back to after a few days, and hopefully forcing myself through expensive school and going there every day, I will be able to actually stick with it, learn something, and make games to also help both your life and mine be better. Because that is, at the end of the day, I started this channel for myself. It's a selfish thing to dedicate hours of your life towards Let's Plays and release them to the world and not follow fan requests. But hey, this is the fan not at all requested, but open to having on podcasts. So honestly, if you're listening to this, I imagine you're definitely a fan. So put in the comments if you want any specific game requests for me to Let's Play. You want to be on the podcast? You can be on the freaking podcast. I said I don't want to carry this whole thing myself. And what is this whole thing? We got gaming, we got your grief and death, we got... That's not going to be a regular thing, probably. Oh, regular thing that I do want to bring up to everyone who ever comes on. If you're listening to this, prepare yourself. I want to talk about ghost stories, because I kind of believe in ghosts. Full disclosure, crazy thing. When that Big Gray Cat was dying, in my dead-end jobness of the grocery store, I once had to spend a lot of weeks just sitting at the door during COVID lockdowns and just counting the people that come in. And I would often stay up the night before because it was such a boring job just sitting down for 8 hours that I learned to sleep sitting up. And I also learned how to detect when I am asleep, like what it feels like to be asleep, how to still hear around you while you're asleep. And I bring this up because in the presence of ghosts and death, perhaps it was just a hallucination, of course, because it was 2 a.m. when Cat died, but I was certainly feeling something similar to being asleep in my wakefulness. And I've heard some theorize, some totally reputable sources say that something about the pineal gland that makes dreams happen when you're asleep is your third eye. And if that's the case, man, right before Big Gray Cat left this world a few seconds, about probably 20-ish, I was feeling something flaring up in that same sleepful, dreamy place of my head that I feel when I'm asleep. And hey, maybe that was a warning from a ghost that my cat was about to leave this world for something I hope was better. maybe it was just a very well-timed hallucination. But my point is, I have some experiences that are either hallucinations or ghosts, and I'd love to hear yours. If you don't want to leave them in the comments, then save them for when you're on the podcast in the future. And to segue into something relevant, my most, memorable ghost-type psychic experiences, I don't know if I said them before on the channel. The most ghost-type, I'll split them up into future telling and ghost, is when I was 12, I turned my head, so I would, instead of my usual sleeping with my head looking towards the door in case of barbaric intruders, I turned around so I was facing my window and the wall, and at some point I woke up during the night and saw the figure of a man about my dad's size staring in at me. And I was just looking at him like, oh, why is Dad looking at me? And then it dawned in my mind, wait a minute, I'm looking at the wall. My dad wouldn't walk in and look at me. And right when I realized that the shadow figure silhouette of a man in the darkness sort of glided towards me, glid, if you will, and slowly dissipated as it got closer. And I screamed and cried for my mommy like a little baby. And that is the most, because I am, of course, I would say it's the most concrete sighting I've seen, but that's in my adult years. Upon waking up, I hallucinate like a mother. I've seen a big Grudge, like American Grudge, that is, movie of big black mass moving along my ceiling. I'm pretty sure that's also not a ghost. But that's my big story. I just want to get it out there for entertainment purposes. I was also naked at the time, so a bit weird of a ghost to be watching a little naked 12-year-old boy. We'll be right back. I need some water. We don't have ad breaks as of yet, so let me interrupt this with a you should play or watch X thing. This week's first recommendation is, everybody, welcome to the podcast. Special guest Fluffy Cat. How did she get into this room? The first recommendation would be, you should probably play Cyberpunk. It's a bit Cyberpunk 2077. It's a bit of a shit mess. Thank you, Fluffy, for your input. I think she was agreeing with me. It's a bit of a shit mess, but honestly, I have never played a game that made me feel as many feelings as in Cyberpunk. There's just something about it. Maybe it's my loner brain, but the way the first person setup is in the conversations, whenever I'm talking to someone in that game for a main story thing, anyway, it gives my brain the same chemicals as talking to a real person, and I think that's the highest compliment I could ever give a game's conversation system. And it's not a good conversation system. It just is very well presented in its first-personness. Also, the shooting is kind of mediocre, but satisfying gore. The driving is very atmospheric and fun. I love the city. And that's the recommendation for this week. Oh yeah, and it's also a big buggy mess still. You see people T-pose. It's pretty funny. Yeah, Fluffy meowing on the mic. We had 4 cats. Now we're down to just Fluffy, after about a 5-year period of deaths in between. And Big Grey Cat was her brother. They didn't get along. Big Grey Cat was a very playful cat, liked to be violent and mean and fun. And Fluffy didn't like that at all, so she hated him. But yeah, I see you, Fluffy, but based on that, she's very much more cuddly now that he's gone, even though the two of them didn't hang out. Guessing she can feel the loneliness of her brother being gone. We took them in when they were little kittens. I think my mom found 3 of them. The story of me meeting Fluffy and Big Grey Cat and their sister, who was given away to a couple that my mom just found on Facebook because we didn't want to take in all 3, was I was coming home from school when I was 18 in September, my extra semester of high school. Because I failed religion due to a very strange teacher who I'm sure I'll get into eventually. And I came home in the middle of summer. I sat down on the front steps to take my shoes off. And around the corner of my side of my house comes these 3 adorable and horribly dirty kittens so small they could fit in the palm of your hand each. And the three of them looked at me. 2 skinny gray cats and 1 skinny poof ball of blackness and dirt, which was Fluffy, and she was the first one to let loose a little screamy meow and then walk up to me and let me pet her. And the rest is history. She's been a cat by my side for it will be 10 years in September. And that's a bit of a sad fact because Grey Cat would have been 10 and we totally could have got 10 more years out of him. When I was a child, I was born into, when I was a baby rather, I was born into my mom already having a cat for, I think, like 18 years. And his name was Deucey and he lived to be like 20 something. So that's my gauge on how old cats can live, though none I've had since then have lived that long. Sorry, Fluffy's just climbing on my shoulder. And I'm petting her as I podcast here. If there's anything that I knew when Grey Cat was obviously having his stomach disease, it's just spend the time that you have with the ones you love, because you never know when it will be gone. I guess in Grey Cat's case, we sort of had an idea, and in Technoblades, his family seemed to, I don't know if it's disrespectful to talk about him as someone who didn't know him or follow his content at all, but it's resonating with me a lot lately, as if you don't know, or just to remind you, I myself am a survivor of cancer. I had it when I was 4 till I went into remission when I was 6, and even though as a 28-year-old it was very long ago, it's still something I think of pretty much every single day with a lingering survivor's guilt brought up again in my selfish brain's thoughts of Technoblade is, why is this fucking innocent, good kid, I mean, he may not be innocent, I didn't watch any of his videos, maybe something else, I don't want to besmirch his name, but I just don't know myself, this innocent kid who entertained, millions of people? How many? Hundreds of thousands? Every day made their lives better? Why is that the person that dies, but I'm still here? Hear me with my 0 viewers. Why the fuck am I the one that's still alive? And, of course, the answer is that's not how it works. Someone didn't just decide life is bullshit and unfair, and that's just something all of us have to deal with, for better or worse, which in my case, in the selfish definition, is better because, hey, I'm still here. I can still help people. I can still help myself and make my life better. Just because someone who you can easily make the argument is better than me has died doesn't mean that my life is meaningless or has to end. If I were to die right now, it wouldn't bring someone like Technoblade or anyone else who has died of cancer back. I'm just here. I'm still here, and the world has to deal with it. And good for me. And survivor's guilt is such a bullshit thing, because, hey, guess what? How many billionaires are ruining the world and still... Hey, don't drink that! Get away from that. Yeah, that's why you don't bring cats on your podcast. They drink your humidifier water that you shouldn't bring out. And so many pieces of shit. Whatever. Billionaires like Elon Musk, who punch down on trans people because they can't be horribly transphobic at all times. People like Jordan Peterson, who are just brain dead, get to go on living while perfect examples of human beings and cats die every hour of every day. So why the fuck should I die while these continuously horrible people get to go on living regardless of whether or not I exist? So fuck survivor's guilt, fuck cancer, and rest in peace Technoblade and my cat. Let's put a bookend on that and segue back. What did I want to segue into? God, this is going to be I'm going to re-listen to this in editing and be like, I can't release any of this. This is fucking shit. No one wants to hear this. I'd rather listen to JonTron than this. JonTron, reach out if you're listening and would like to be on the podcast. Jordan Peterson. An intellectual, says the right. That was my next point. Think about your life. When have you ever seen someone that identifies themselves as an intellectual and them actually not be a fucking idiot? Is that ever, even if someone else is labeling someone as an intellectual, you find that both that person that they're labeling and they themselves who are the labeler, it's fucking idiots. What the fuck is an intellectual? What, Albert Einstein? What's the most famous picture? He's got his tongue out. Man's walking around his whole life with his tongue out, and you think that's an intellectual? I guess that was probably a point brought up by him. A wise person knows that they know nothing, and a Jordan Peterson claims to know absolutely everything about the way the world should work. Who the fuck's an intellectual here? Not that old piece of god. I might talk about him this much. Might as well title the podcast some clickbaity shit like Jordan Peterson is pathetic. I hate Jordan Peterson, and here's why. I don't want to spend my whole time talking about that waste of life. But god damn it, man. My city produced that. My piece of shit, way too expensive to live in. Bring it back to political. My god, the cost of living is ridiculous. I am a grocery store worker, and I saw a study or maybe it was a poll, put forth by some Canadian news thing, said that 80% of people respect grocery store workers, and it's one of the most respectable jobs around. And then I subsequently saw another article by that news website that said the cost of living in Ontario, if you want to survive, you need to make at least $22 an hour. The minimum wage is $15 an hour. So if you're working as a grocery store worker, guess what? You make minimum wage. You don't make enough to live. One of the most respected jobs in the province. We don't respect you enough for you to live. That is a whole lot of fun, gamers. I don't really know where I'm going with that. I'm just filled with rage in my adulthood. That's something I've noticed is when I was a teenager-ish, I've always been into punk music. Billy Talent's my favorite band. I like Alexis on Fire. Green Day, I like American Idiot a lot. That's one of my favorite albums. And I would listen to something like Billy Talent, and when they get to their political songs about change and revolution, I would think, this is a bit too political for me. And now, as I age, I find myself identifying with those political songs more than ever, thinking, these probably don't go far enough. Not only should we make the rich make less money, hey, how about some justice, some little public executions going on there, if that's not too much to call for. Perhaps the suffering of hundreds of thousands to millions should be something that people die for. But now let's get too political, actually, now that I think about it. Hey, if you're one of them American right-wing people listening to this, and you're thinking, hey, this podcast is too political for me, fuck this person, you can leave. You can close out of the video. You can go, I don't want you as a fan, because also in my aging, I'm finding myself constantly radicalized to the left by the internet presenting rightoids of America. In Canada, it's a bit different because the conservatives aren't white supremacists like in America, and as far as I can tell, yes, I do mean that. From what I can see, Republicans in America tend to be exclusively white supremacists, and people such as former British friend of mine who fall into the grifters of the internet right wing, like Sargon, a complete dumbass cod. Hey Sargon, if you're listening, come on the podcast. I need clout. They just descend into white supremacy and try to mask it by, it's not about the brown, it's about the nationality. Like, I've watched the only internet comment etiquette video I watched was him showing 40 minutes of Sargon of Akkad talking, and boy howdy, how does anyone listen to that person? Sargon is perhaps one of the dumbest people yet created by Nintendo. And this is a comedy podcast, and why am I just talking about politics the whole time? Because I wouldn't mind being a political commentator. Donald Trump, haha. Anyway, Sargon of Akkad, just, like, there was a point in that video where he's like, it's not about skin color, it's about nationality. And this African person of black skin is clearly not classically British. When I watch something, I want to escape from woke politics. And the way those two connect is sort of, when you watch Lord of the Rings or something, you do it for escapism. and you're mad because there's a black person in The Lord of the Rings, so you can't escape woke politics. That just sounds like you want to escape black people. How is that not white supremacy? And that's about the texts and the subtext, rather, I get from the internet right-wingers of the grift, such as Jordan Peterson, and I say grift because they talk about Judeo-Christian values all the time, where someone like Jordan Peterson does not at all follow those, and someone like Ben Shapiro maybe it is part of Judeo-Christian values to be a humongous piece of shit and be anti-human rights and be anti-freedom while calling yourself the big person for freedom as you talk against personal freedom and bodily autonomy. Whatever, let's talk about something else. God, I hate the world. It's often in the gamer sphere of this podcast topics, I've often seen it presented even in things that I watch, not just from complete idiots on Twitter. Like, for example, I love Oni Plays. It's my favorite Let's Play channel. If you don't watch it and you like this channel, you will love Oni Plays. It has made me cry laughing many a time. And something even said on there by Chris O'Neill, who has horrible video game opinions. You definitely won't like hearing him voice those. But among them is, I don't want politics in my video games. When that is absolutely I don't disagree with that, like in the context of Mario. I don't want to play Mario and have him stomp on a Goomba and then stomp on the means of production. He can just stick to the Gooms and the turtles. It's fine. But to say that politics should never be in any form of creative media, sorry, I've been drinking a bit, it's just ridiculous. It's something I fall back to, just saying anyone with a brain. But come on, think about it. Think about your favorite things. They're probably freaking political. Like, there's probably someone out there who's like, my favorite movie is for V for Vendetta, but I don't want politics in my video games. I've been playing Detroit Become Human on the channel recently, and as I say in that series, there was, around the time it came out, there was some like developer on it, or maybe it was like the main company Quantic Dreams tweet. There was like a tweet, which I don't want to find, that was like, oh, this is not a political game, this is just a video game, it's just what if creative, haha. And then it's just like nonstop the least subtle allegories to segregation that you could ever possibly make, and slavery. And it's like, why say that it isn't political to appeal to these stupid people who don't think they want politics in games, as they play like fucking Gears of War that's about a one world government coming together to stop a big threat, and the government having too much power and government overreach ruining people's lives, and hey, also you're shooting big monsters as that goes on. It's just frustrating to play something like Call of Duty, where it has Russian politics, or the whole center around the game and loyalists to the Soviet Union. Be like, I don't want any politics. Mario's gotta stomp on the Goomba. I gotta shoot this Middle Eastern man with no politics at all. This makes me think of that game that was announced, the 7 Days in Fajula. I don't know how to pronounce it. I hope that's not Family Guying out too much with fajitas. I don't even want to talk about that. It's too political for this podcast. I don't think there's such thing as too political. There's certainly disagreeing with political views. And yeah, that's a fair reason to dislike a game. However, saying that because something has politics in it is bad, I would absolutely argue is a political statement in itself. Indifference to something is allowing that thing to happen. That's something I picked up from my, I don't want to say Catholic upbringing, because I quickly fell out of it. I think my dad forced me into Catholic church and religion. Catholic school here in Toronto is a big thing because the school system was essentially founded by the Catholics, so they get a lot of public funding, and I went to Catholic school, elementary to high school. And the first dawnings of me falling out of religion were, I think I was in like grade 5, and we went to the little church next to the school, and priests talked about how, oh, God is infallible, God is perfect, but don't worship any god because God's gonna get jealous and kill you, send you to hell for all eternity. Yeah, that is that what fallible means? You get jealous? You punish people because they don't worship you? That was my first falling out of religion. And that I can see why one would want to fall out of politics. Like you just it's all just essentially opinions. And what I was getting into more so is the Catholicism idea that stuck with me is there was, I don't remember when, but it was talking about Jesus and how Jesus went to a place and got mad at people that were enslaving someone else. And the whole idea that if you turn a blind eye to the oppression, you think, oh, I don't support that even though I'm not involved with it. But if you just turn a blind eye to it and allow it to continue, that's supporting it. And in the politics of my life, that is absolutely how I feel about homophobia and transphobia. If you're just gonna let it slide, then hey, guess what? You're part of the freaking problem. And I myself, as a non-binary bi/pano, I need some water. My lips are a little chapped. I'm stumbling over my words. Yeah, if you're willing to be indifferent to the thought that I'm a subhuman that is deserving of less rights and possibly death, yeah, and when you see that presented in a video game, that you say, I don't want this in my game. I want to ignore that this is a thing, and I want these creators just focus on stomping on Goombas, even though they're not a Mario game and they made their own game the way they wanted to. I want them to stop including what they want and cater to me. You're just an asshole, aren't you? You're just a little anti-me asshole. And that's sort of the point I wanted to get towards, is that politics are, if someone wants to have politics in the thing, that is their right. And if you say it's not, hey, guess what? You're political, I got you. You're the thing you didn't want in the video games, asshole. Fuck you. Yeah, but politics can't be everything in a podcast. What about comedy? No, I don't know, shooting the shit. I shot in a urinal once. Yeah, in grade 6, my brother was 2 years older than me, so he was in grade 8, and I think Jackass had just come out around that time, or one of the Jackass sequels or something. And my brother and his friends really like to sort of like do Jackass type stunts, thinking it was funny amongst themselves, among us. And one of those stunts was standing on the toilet and shitting down from where you're standing. And I thought, I can one-up that. I can be cooler than that. I'll shit in a urinal. And then I did. And it was pretty funny, to be honest. I shat in the urinal, and I went back to class, and I went to one of the cool kids in the class. Maybe I should bleep that name, say Jason. And I said, that's a fake name. I said, hey, guess what? I shat in the urinal. And he was like, no. I was like, yeah, I shat in the urinal. Asked to go to the bathroom, take a look. And he did. And he came back, and he, like all the other cool guys standing around, was like, I like shat in the urinal. I can't fucking believe it. And people kept like asking to go to the bathroom. The boys, at least, going to the bathroom, looking at my shit, coming back like, oh my god, he shat in the urinal. That's fucking crazy. And the next day, during the morning announcements, the vice principal came on. He was like, it has come to my attention that there has been some naughtiness in the washrooms. And when he said that, everyone in the class, literally every single person except the teacher, looked at me. And I just think in my head like, oh fuck, maybe I shouldn't have done that. And the vice principal on the announcement said, we're going to find you, and this will not happen again. Guess what? He fucking didn't find me. I got away with that shit scot-free. 20-something years, baby. Also later, that kid Jason, when I was coming out of the bathroom a year later, he like caught me. He was coming in as I was coming out, and he like pushed me back. He didn't catch me shitting. What I mean to say is, he like pushed me towards the sink and was like, we can one up that right now, you and me, shit in that sink. And I was like, dude, I just took a piss, I don't have to shit. What are you doing? And he was like pushing me into the sink and being like, take a shit right now, come on. I was like, all right, I want to be cool, I want cool points. So I like took off my pants and was squatting above the little communal type trough kind of sinks that we had in elementary school. But like as I was trying my hardest to shit, two little like probably like 7-year-old kids, super young, like 3 feet tall, were coming in the door, and Jason was like pushing them, like, no, you can't come in here right now. But they clearly saw me squatting over the sink, so I was just like, it's not happening, Jason. We gotta go. I don't want to get in trouble. And luckily I didn't get in trouble for that either. And after my brother graduated before me, since he was 2 years older, I sort of fell out of the going for stunt coolness thing. Didn't really shit anywhere else interesting. I don't think I have any time in my life. I've actually never shat outside, but I've never been camping, so who knows, that could change one day. Perhaps I too could shit in a hole, like the best of people, Jordan Peterson, shit in your room. You know, what is freaking podcast? When you come on, you will not have to tell stories of you shitting unless you want to. That would be cool. Oh, I didn't finish my psychic story. My also a high school story of when I saw the future. It was the day before I went to my first day of high school orientation. The night before, I had a dream that I was sitting in this big white-walled, white-tabled cafeteria, and I was sitting with a bunch of other guys, my age, teenagers, boys, I suppose, and I turned to my right, and beside me was a short Asian boy, and in front of me was a short, also Asian, but more noticeably different, dark-skinned Filipino boy. And then I woke up, and then I went to my orientation, and at the end of it, there was a little lunch, and I sat at a desk in a white cafeteria that looked exactly like the one from my dream, and I turned my head in exactly the same way, and beside me was that Asian boy, and across from me was that Filipino boy, and it like blew my complete fucking mind. What the hell? I literally dreamed the night before. What happened today? And nothing ever came of that. I can't see the future, though I do occasionally have dreams like that where things that I dreamed then happen exactly as I dreamt. So hey, paranormal people in the comments, what the fuck is up with that? Are ghosts showing me the future? Do I have an untapped psychic potential? Which I honestly kind of... I don't want to know how I die. That's scary. It's more fun going into the future not knowing how the story unfolds. I don't want any of that metaphysical knowing the future bullshit. But feel free to come on the podcast and tell your own down in the comments below. Haha. Just fucking... I will say a special thank you to Ronjer Enjerb for interacting with the channel so much. I'll interact with all of y'alls as I watch your videos because, hey, I don't know if I think it was just totally luck of the algorithm. Starting that aforementioned Detroit Become Human series, I got more impressions from the first 3 videos than I literally have in the history of this channel. It was about 12k impressions on the channel total after about almost a year. And just one of those videos got 12k impressions, like 100 views, which for this channel, maybe you're watching in the future when I get billions, but as of this point, that's about 100 more views than the usual 1 to 5, of which of you I'm very grateful for. Thank you. And I guess that segues into my next topic. But before I segue into that, I just want to mention for anyone who's listened to the Super Mega Cast, remember when they used to just say, "Oh, Ryan, let's hop on this Segway and drive on down to the next topic"? What? Why did they think that was funny? Why did they think that was fucking funny or interesting to say, let's hop on this Segway? God, early Super Mega is so comfortably cringe with its yes, 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 daddy likes, and it's let's hop on this Segway. And this total sort of unconfidence in themselves, which I started that Resident Evil first playthrough on this channel very unconfidently and quickly evolved into getting the confidence in myself you see today. And I often wonder if that's a detriment, because, like, as you know, or maybe you don't, I mention in a lot of videos, hey, fuck you, fan, stop listening. Because it's just because I think that's funny. I don't actually think, fuck you. I'm very grateful that you listen to and or watch my stuff, because, hey, I'm making this for you as much as I'm making this for me. At this point, when I started, it was for me because I wanted to be the big, famous e-celeb like those that I look up to. But nowadays, it's the for me aspect is just because this is so creatively fulfilling to have something published out at the universe that I think is good. Like, yeah, you can call this low effort, call it whatever you want, but I don't think this is shit. I think this is good. I'm happy with it. I wish more people could see it and like it. And in those Detroit impressions, yeah, this is still a completely tiny nobody channel. And the 4 of you that subscribed from those Detroit Become Human videos, thank you so fucking much. I see you. If you want to have anything played on the channel, let me know. I'll do it, because I want to make your lives a little better, because life is hard, man. And that's the majority point of doing this. Fuck fame. Fuck being an e-celeb. Yeah, I do want to be rich, though. If you would like to send me all of your money, please do. But I'm going to college. I'm going to be broke as shit, but I'm still going to be trying to get in this as much as I can, because I want to make people's lives, I want to make your life a little less shitty, because let's keep on trucking. And those impressions on the Detroit video and you 4 subscribers, those 100 views, taught me that, hey, I actually can be entertaining. People who've never seen this channel before, who aren't affiliated with me through Discord or my real life friends, people who've never heard me before, they can be entertained too. I can fucking do this. And that means that you can do it too. So come on my podcast and help me entertain people. And that topic, that before I got into the psychic, the topic was, it's almost been a year of this channel. And honestly, there's a big part of me that thinks, oh, I should finish every game that I've started. But let's be real here. No one cares about 99% of those games that I started. No one cares about fucking Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions. I do, and I will finish it. No one cares about No More Heroes, but I do, and I want to show you No More Heroes 2 and 3, which you should care about because they're really fucking cool games. Metroid Dread I care about and will probably finish. The only thing that I've started on this channel that y'all care about and want to see me finish is definitely Undertale, which I also want to see to the end of, and is at the top of the list for the get back to. After what I'm saying is, it's been a full year and I haven't finished the things that I've started, and that does disappoint me. But when I started this channel and I was doing 5 videos a week, it was the most creatively fulfilling time of my life, hands down. Better than writing short stories all the time, better than writing poetry. I've always been a writer, if you don't know. It's even though those videos got what people would probably point and laugh at amount of views, the single to double digits, that I love those early playthroughs. I love those like first 100 videos, except for the White Day ones. Those suck. Except for part 3, you should watch some of part 3 of White Day, a Labyrinth Called School. It's just doing that 5 days a week. And at the time before I had decided to go to school, which I did in May, and I'll get into in a minute, that grocery store job was just a dead end, and I was making 5 videos a day for months, and it gaining no ground, and it just made me feel like a failure burnout. You know, there's always that egotistical megalomaniac, to bring it back to Undertale, view that, hey, if I do something, it's gonna be good, which, yeah, those Let's Plays are good, and therefore, because it's good, I will get many, many views, and it not working out that way was a very big humbler, and I think it improved how my content's going, because I worry less about appealing to anyone, and more just doing what's fun for me, and what I hope is fun for y'all. I've gotten the feedback that me reacting to things is funny. That's why I'm playing Detroit as a game that I've never finished, so there's a lot to see for the first time and react to. There's a lot of, I've watched the Best Friends playthrough, of course, which again, I do recommend, but seeing it in different contexts, all the things that I forget, all the new outcomes that are possible that I hope is funny to y'all. And that's another reason to get back to Undertale, because of all the things I've started, that and Metroid are the only games that I haven't finished in the past and didn't start because I want you guys to see how cool Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions is. Also, speaking on a year of the channel, hey, if you've ever watched my old videos and you're wondering why the frame drops are aplenty, and it's like watching a slideshow, yeah, I was recording those on a hard drive, not an SSD. And when you notice the frame drops stop happening as much, yeah, that's when I bought the SSD and figured out, oh yeah, I should have been recording to the SSD on my laptop this whole time, not a separate hard drive. That was very dumb of me. And I hope I didn't lose my chance at being a quadrillionaire Markiplier because of frame drops, which I can totally understand, honestly. I'm not going to be mad at anyone for quitting out of a nausea-inducing slideshow. But we've come far on this channel, and both as I divided the serious and the silly, with the silly being the majority of playthroughs, and the serious being like started with J.J. McField and the Island of Memories, and 60%-ish serious, 40% silly of Katawa Shoujo, which I would also like to finish just for my personal, once I finish that and have it in a big playlist, that'll feel really good to me, having a visual novel that I love done. But who the hell cares? I should talk about something more interesting on this podcast. Lord help me, I need a guest. I'm running out of things to talk about. I just want to keep it. Fuck it. It's been almost a year on this channel, and honestly, I feel like I've accomplished quite a lot. I've gotten past egotistical thoughts of that I should be famous, and can now just make content for the sake of making content, fulfilling myself, and making your and my day better. Which, just to let you know, also the reason that I'm doing this podcast and the reason that I'm doing my channel, because I watch Super Mega, Sleepycast, Oni Plays, but the first Let's Play channel I watched was Game Grumps, and they all helped me through very hard times of my life. They all made me laugh a metric butt ton, and I would like to do that for other people. I don't want to just be guy who watches thing. I want to be person who makes thing that other people like and can relate to. There's always that egotistical appeal of, I want the emails and messages that, hello, your content made my life better, don't doubt. But is that an evil want to have, really? Maybe, I guess, yes, it is for ego in that sense, but is it really that bad to be egotistical when you want something that is good for someone else? It's not like fucking Matt Walsh, who wants to disprove that people should have rights so he can have more money from people giving him shit. Which also, hey, yeah, that's why I say the right-wing internet people are grifters. Can we talk about Matt Walsh for a second? You ever looked at, why is this hipster-ass fucking textbook-looking soy boy the big new rightoid icon? World is a clown joke. Alcohol dries your mouth. Just today I found a new wine that I very much enjoy the taste of, and coincidentally enough, it's called Megalomaniac, made by some guy in my local province of Ontario, and gosh dang, is that the good stuff. Maybe I should try to gear this podcast towards the Ontario wine scene. That's a thing. Drink Megalomaniac. I would describe it as it's got a sort of a like almost carbonated, not in taste, but in quality to it. Or not in texture, rather. When you sip it, you can feel a little bubbliness on your tongue, a little sting of flavor. And it's got the common apple-ish tasting of white wine, finished with that beautiful sour that I love. Megalomaniac, buy today. It's cheap as shint. That's why I bought it. It's probably not available to like 4 out of 5 of you listeners. That's probably me being too generous to myself. It's probably not available to 1 out of 2 of you listeners and possible future podcast hosts / guests. As I've said before, friends who want to start a podcast, though there is a bit of that element of 4 white guys want to have made a podcast. Wow, who would have thought? But hey, guess what? That make fun of is usually 4 cis white guys. Hey, I'm non-binary. I am now immune to that. And I guess that's something I haven't really brought up with anyone outside of my internet life. And it's kind of hard to, maybe it's hard to deal with. I haven't gone to my bank or the government and changed my sex in their database from M to ? And that's something I wonder about. And the first time I tried to do it was as I was applying to college. Instead of male, I set myself down as non-binary. And then when it came time to get my high school transcripts, they said, sorry, there's no non-binary Alex at this high school. No non-binary Alex ever attended. So I had to change my information in the school thing to male. So, hey, government mandated male over here. That's a lot of fun. That's something to continue the political trend of this podcast that I've noticed in my adult life is those who claim to be proponents of freedom sure drop that pretext when it comes to other people's freedom to identity, don't they? Like Matt Walsh recently had that documentary about what is a woman, and now you'll see the dumbest people on Twitter point to that for the next, maybe they've already stopped actually, I haven't seen it recently, for the hot topic of this disproves trans people's existence of the month. It's kind of embarrassing, to be honest. I can't imagine what doesn't go through the heads of these people. And hey, if you're a righto that has been listening this whole time, and you're still, I haven't done any disproving, so I don't know why you wouldn't be still against the idea of a trans person having any rights at all. I don't know where I'm going with this. You're stupid, fuck you. That is kind of a thing, isn't it? Just how do you argue for the rights of people that you either care about or just people in general? There's this whole push towards states' rights in America. That's the big thing right now. The push is towards states' rights to say that gay people aren't people and that women don't have bodily autonomy because we need more babies to also be oppressed in this horrible system. And it's such a weird that it's a right-wing status quo freedom thing to be less free. Please leave in the comments if you could explain to me how restricting people's freedoms makes them more free. And the whole argument of, the Civil War was about states' rights. Yeah, it's pretty clear to me now that is about states' rights to slavery, which a lot of those Supreme Court people probably want to bring back, it looks like. It very much bothers me that I could be potentially a few hour drive away from not being seen as a person anymore. And that's something I think the right doesn't really yet, is they have no concept of what if I wasn't seen as a person? What if me, the person who is arguing against the rights of all others, had those rights taken away instead of them? Would I care then about what is in the Bible and natural, quote unquote? And I think the answer is they don't think about it that way. They just think about themselves as now and how they should be unrestricted and the other is bad, the different is bad. It's very depressing to think about. That's another thing of the I don't want politics in my games that resonates with me is Dragon Age 2 is a video game which has bisexual romance options. And I once saw a comment that said, There is an unrealistic amount of bisexual people in this game. There is no way that there would be that many in such close proximity. It's gay propaganda. The number of bisexual romance options in Dragon Age 2 is 3. In a city of hundreds of thousands. And that's the kind of thing that I feel like I'm dealing with every day of my life. And even in this podcast, I'm thinking, don't be so political. You're not going to get any listeners if you're political. And it is so fucking depressing to think, don't think of yourself as a person deserving of any representation. It will drive people away from you. And that's just something I think the internet geniuses on the right don't understand. I will fully take a hardline stance that this is a leftist. Donald Trump, Oliver, what's his fucking last name? Oliver Twist, Oliver, he was on the Daily Show, Oliver something, whatever, that guy with the teeth and the It's 2015. That I'm a leftist, baby. This is a political leftist podcast in which I will have many leftists on. We'll probably not talk about this kind of thing at length, because I'm really getting it out of the way now, so I don't have to talk about it later, because it's been bothering me for literally the past 5 years. The internet is fun. Just recently, if you're a listener of this, you're probably aware and in the Discord that I sort of got someone in a Discord of mine banned for being transphobic and homophobic piece of shit. And felt good. Felt good to have one less piece of shit in my life. And there's always the question of, well, if we ban the Nazis, are we really any better than the Nazis? And the answer is obviously, yeah. Yeah, we are. We banned the bad guy. And of course the enlightened right, who are against human rights and freedoms, and people don't want to see themselves as the bad guys. And I don't get it. I don't get it. Representation is something often brought up in the realm of video games, often as a bad thing. I don't want the propaganda in my games. What's with all these games having a girl as the protagonist? We should have bald white guy from 2008. And I do have to wonder if that's not I don't want politics in my game when the game features no representation at all. Is that no diverse representation, rather? Is that not a political statement? Is it not a political statement to say, there are no gay people in this game? You can be free from that, my brothers. Is that not a political statement? I don't know, maybe I'm probably getting too far into the politics of this podcast. Should get more towards the comedy, but I don't have any farts in my bum right now. I didn't need anything spicy today. Just full of spicy takes for you. It's probably the most lukewarm leftist political opinions. Hey guys, I'm a person. Please stop being a piece of shit. Is that really a hot fucking take? I've always liked the leftist political figures that I watched when I was a kid. I watched a lot of The Daily Show, watched a lot of The Colbert Report, and it's Jon Stewart has come back with a YouTube channel, The Problem with Jon Stewart, and it's just as good, but unfortunately the Colbert, whatever it is now, is not quite as biting in its satire anymore. Now it's more just like a serious talk show host, oh man, which if you like it, you like it. If I don't, I don't. But I was sort of leading towards maybe the whole leftist TV presence, Lord, which it certainly hasn't, because there is a good amount of representation. For example, I think the best gay representation that I've seen in television in recent years is on CW's The Flash, which is a bad show later. Maybe watch the first 2 seasons and then stop. There's a police captain, and he's doesn't talk about sex at any point until some point in the 2nd season, I think, where he just talking about oh, people are in danger, and he says, my husband is there. That's some pretty good representation. There is the political, God, I can't stop talking left politics, which it is kind of sad that my rights are seen as leftist and the people on the right don't want me to exist. The the whole leftist or rightist thing of as soon as someone is mentioned as gay, that thing is now political. Fuck you. Why is my existence politics that you don't want to see? God, I hate Jordan Peterson so fucking much. I'm just repeating the same points over and over. Gamers, activate brain mode. Think of something else. In a year of the channel, I haven't shied away from talking about anything that I want to talk about, and that's really good. And I will continue that trend in this podcast, I guess. Also, speaking of podcasts and politics, that one I listened to, Super Mega, also very obviously leftist, and I love how Ryan and Matt make fun of people who would disagree with them. Like, a woman's penis? You're telling me there's a such thing as a woman's penis? It's making fun of their fans. I love that shit. And I have never shied away from expressing myself, and that's something I'm glad for, that I haven't felt the need to possibly, as many times as I guess I have felt the need, but I haven't acted on the need to shy away from who I am and what I think to get more views and such, because hey, I'm not getting the views anyway, might as well just be my whole self. And I don't want to say, oh, it's my truth, because that is I think that's the dumbest thing you can say, my truth. And then you got like to bring it back to Matt Walsh and politics again, what is the truth, gang? And in that case, Mr. Walsh, the truth is that you're an asshole. Fuck you. And God, I'm stuck on the thought of my truth when a few years ago now, maybe more like 4 years, 3 years-ish, my dad got surgery on a hemorrhoid or a hernia or something. And he came back with post-operative, post-operative delusion, post-operative something that basically fucking crazy because of surgery. And I wasn't aware that was a thing that could happen. So you, people at home, please be aware that you or a family member could get surgery and come back and be acting like a totally different person. Post-operative delirium, that's the term you should look into whenever someone you know is going for surgery. And my dad had that really bad, and he was going around the neighborhood showing his nuts to people because he got nut surgery, because that's where the hernia or hemorrhoid, whatever was, and talking about how it was a miracle. And he saw these 3 lights, and he wasn't afraid to show people his nuts about it. And when he'd rant about how we were ruining his life and how he wanted to just give it all away, make us lose the house and go up on our own, he kept saying, this is my truth, this is what I'm going to do. And now for the rest of my life, I get that trauma of any time I see someone say, this is my truth. That's what I think back to. One of the most horrible times of my life, of a crazy nut-showing dad talking about how he's ready to ruin all of our lives because that's just his truth. And in my leftist propaganda way, it seems like Matt Walsh wanted to ruin a lot of lives with his truth. Fuck you, Matt Walsh. Is this bullying? Could I be banned for this? I do believe in a such thing as deserved bullying, when someone says something stupid, you should probably bully them out of being that stupid. I've done it on Discord, and more appropriately to the right-wing media is on Twitter. Twitter culture is basically just fucking bullying if you ever look at it. Someone says something stupid, everyone else has to dunk on them, and dunking on someone 100% of the time just looks a whole lot like bullying to me. And yet bullying is listed as a bannable offense. It's sort of contrary to the whole culture of the website, and people don't get banned for it, really. And that's the funny thing about the Jordan Peterson ban, is that he was banned for dead-naming Elliot Page and being a piece of shit, and then he put out like a 1,700-hour video of him crying at the camera, and at one point he says, "What rules?" And I'm very glad to report that when I reported someone else for the same thing, because fuck you, stop being dead-naming pieces of shit, and also because I'm just vindictive and want to see rightoids gone from my earth, that are the people that are against me, my existence at least. When I did a report on Twitter, it now said that dead naming is against the rules. So, hey, Jordan Peterson, Those rules, those are the ones that banned you. God, what a just unbelievably pathetic old man talking about make your bed, dress like an adult, go on Twitter and talk like a 14-year-old, and then get banned and cry about it. That's what an adult man should do. These are the icons the right looks up to. So it's how you gonna see the man crying about being banned on Twitter and say he's absolutely right, he is an icon, he is our guy? Fucking, that is like past getting grifted to, and it's just fucking siding with a complete baby moron. Which, hey, if you're watching this, if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably siding with a baby moron too, because who would spend an hour ranting about rightoids? Why do I keep saying like that? Rightoids. It's like how to also talk about Elliot Page on Beyond Two Souls, another Quantic Dream game. Every time they say entities, they don't say like entities. They say the entities are coming. It's the entities. And they enunciate it like that every single time and never fail to annoy the shit out of me. Rightoids. I have to pee. Let's take another break. Hey, can you believe it? It's been like 40 minutes and I still don't have any sponsors to put in ad breaks. So here's another recommendation coming at you from your host, LiveHardman. We already did games. Or we did a game. So I think the you should watch of this week is, hey, you ever see those Sonic movies? If you're a gamer, you're nostalgic. Or Sonic the Hedgehog like I was. I used to go to my cousin's house and play Sonic 2. You know, like, because he's blue and spiky. If you like Sonic but haven't seen those movies, yeah, I recommend them. Sonic 1, I actually like the second one better, so this specific recommendation goes out to Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Jim Carrey rolls his R's like Eggman did in Sonic SatAM, but there isn't as much Jim Carrey time as there was in the first one, so I guess I recommend one more if you like Jim Carrey more. But 2 had Tails being very cute, was a pretty standard child plot. It's sort of really a 6 out of 10 movie in terms of film quality, but made me smile a lot, made me laugh a lot, and if you like smiling and laughing and Sonic the Hedgehog, I recommend Sonic the Hedgehog 2. That's another thing of this podcast. What is it? Weeks is a thing in another podcast that I listen to, Castle Super Beast. They talk about their weeks, and looking back at my week, it's Wednesday right now. I've accomplished jack and shit. I've been playing slowly. It was my birthday on Saturday of last week, and I started the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, Shredder's Revenge, and hell yeah, that's a big recommend for me. I haven't finished it yet, because I've just been replaying the same levels over and over, enjoying the fun of the game. Yeah, that's the most polished TMNT beat-em-up ever if you're a fan of retro beat-em-ups, which who under 40 is, other than me. Shredder's Revenge is a dang good one. It's also very easy, very accessible, yet still satisfying in its combos and such. April O'Neil is busted as hell, and you can infin a combo in a very fun way. Beautiful graphics, beautiful sounds. It has a lot of original tracks and raps about turtles in it. That's my other video game recommendation of the week. In my life, ever since I was like 18 or something, when I sat down and said, I can't ever relate to people. I don't have anything to talk about. I decided to constantly be in the middle of a book and also watch a movie every week so I have more stuff to talk about. And yeah, that worked after like 5 years. Just the way movies and books and video games can resonate and you can think about them with regards to your life. That did give me things to talk about and fix that problem. But this week I haven't watched any movie yet, so I have nothing to talk about on that front. All I've done is go to work, come home, grieve cat, and do this. I recorded some Detroit. That was a lot of fun. And that's the weekly recap. I got fucking nothing. You too could come on this podcast and also talk about fucking nothing. Super mega podcast that I listen to and recommend to you again. just started releasing videos of their podcast as like cameras looking at them. And I bought a $15 webcam just out of curiosity. I thought it would be like 2004 cell phone quality, but it's actually pretty good, 720p. I could totally do a face cam in my videos with it. But I have no confidence in my face. But I have gotten some confidence in my face to once again go back to political from allowing myself to be non-binary. And I say allowing myself because for my whole life, or at least since I was like 8 or 10-ish, I've always thought that I shouldn't be a boy. It just is unfitting for me. And people would like me more if I was a girl. And just allowing myself to break away from man, which I've never identified with, just makes me feel so much better about myself. And I recently matched with and promptly, or rather quickly, unmatched with, which I'll get into in a minute, a other non-binary person who has very masculine looks on Bumble. And even though my whole life I've thought I didn't really like beards, I don't like that masculine facial hair look, this person had a little bit of a beard, and they were still drop dead fucking gorgeous. And that has improved my confidence that I don't have to adhere to a clean-shaven, I'll just say girlish, sort of pretty view to be pretty. I can be a bit lazy with my facial hair and still have some self-worth, is what I'm getting at. And if you're wondering why I unmatched with that person, it's a bit of a saddish story because I thought we were hitting off, getting along well. And then they said they live in downtown Toronto, and I made the joke that, so you're one of those 1%ers, eh? One of the rich. And they just instantly removed me, just like that. Which, yeah, it felt like shit, but that's well within their rights, and maybe they're like actually poor as hell and struggling to survive, and I just hit a nerve. Maybe they're just super rich and they don't want to acknowledge it, and they feel like shit that they're so rich. Maybe they just decided they didn't like my face anymore. But it just being that it was right after I said that, it sort of makes me feel like no one on these dating apps has any fucking sense of humor. It is so hard to find someone who can jive and live. It feels like the normies of our world are just brought up to not have any sense of humor. And it bothers me. Another example is a classic, I understand how this could be misconstrued, classic joke of, oh, you look good in that. You'd look better on my floor. I reappropriated that when some smart person had matched with me, and they were giving me smart person facts, and I said, hey, you got a good brain. Bet it'd look better on my bedroom floor. And then they instantly removed me, unmatched, just like that. Come on, that's a good fucking joke. I recognize that sounds like I'm psychotic and want to remove their head and kill them, and that's why I sent after that in brackets, that is a joke. Still not good enough. But I guess taking these gambles is a good way to measure compatibility, and if they remove me, that's just a good thing. That was a YouTube comment. I think I saw it on an old Game Grumps Valentine's Day video with Danny and Kevin on the game Bratz, which I recommend. That was a good video if you want something to make you smile today. And I saw a random comment on that, which was, by being your complete self, you're going to attract the right people and push away the wrong ones. So those people on matching with me, hey, I'm just pushing away the wrong people. Fuck them. They ain't right. Go to fucking hell. I'm funny, you pieces of shit. Fuck you. You are rich if you live in downtown Toronto. It's like fucking $3,000 a month for rent. Fuck you. Is that funny? Did I say anything funny in there? I want to be funny. Funny's fun. I've always thought of myself as a funny, fun person, though not so much when I try to be. I guess this please come on podcast so I can be funny and make fun of you and call you fat. It's sort of a thing I've done my whole life, as growing up as a little bully by that jackass brother, wanting to get approval. And, hey, I'd like your approval, so please like a video, subscribe, eat my ass, all the works. I'm bringing this up because I think that's gonna about do it for this podcast of me alone today. If you've stuck with me this whole time, why? Thank you for joining me on this adventure into my new creative endeavor that if you would like to be a part of, just let me know. You probably can. It's very, I don't have to like stream a game to you for us to let's play together. I mean, as is the case for us to let's play together. In this case, I just have to record your audio, or you can record it and send it to me. And it's easy, so we can do a podcast together. Also, it's much easier than let's playing because I can cut very easily without missing any points of the game. And that's the end of podcast number 1 is what I'm getting towards. I have no set schedule in place. Yell at me somewhere if you would like it to have a schedule. If you want to be on, let me know. Once again, I repeated that like 800 trillion billion times. I don't know how to end things without dying. I'm leaning towards just saying the Markiplier thing again, but I should probably come up with my own podcast, or my own catchphrase, so, I don't know, get the fuck out of here.